Hello and welcome once again to Speakeasy, where we focus on people in the public eye. My guest this week is Miss Linda Chesis, and she is, I believe, one of the most outstanding young artists around today. She is a leader in the field of music. She is a flutist. Notice I did not say flautist. In the first place, that's Miss Chesis's preference. And in the second place, she tells me that it was Jean-Pierre Rampal who said that one is a flutist until they earn at least $10,000 in engagement, and then they are entitled to be called a flautist. So welcome, Linda Chesis.
Thank you.
I was looking over these notes on you. Absolutely incredible. You are such a young woman, and to have amassed all of these fine credits, for example, the magna cum laude from Yale University, and it was from there you won a grant, didn't you, too?
That's right. In fact, I won 2 grants. At Yale, I studied history of art, but I was playing the flute at the same time. And when it came time to graduate, I said, well, now what's going to be my career? And, of course, the flute won out, and I applied for 2 grants. One was an unusual one. It was called the John Courtney Murray Fellowship, and that was for people who wanted to do unusual things after college. And my unusual thing was to study flute tonguing with the great master Jean-Pierre Rampal. And I received that fellowship miraculously. And then I also received a Rotary Fellowship, which allowed me to spend another year in France, where I studied at the Paris Conservatory.
Oh, I see, because I noticed that you studied with Rampal for 3 years. So it was 2 years with him on the one grant, and then 1 year extended because of the Rotary Fellowship.
Right.
Ah, that's wonderful. So while you were there as a student of Rampal, you won the first prize in flute at the Paris Conservatory?
At the Paris Conservatory. That is, the Paris Conservatory is an unusual and exciting place to go to school. It's the only place I know where it's as difficult to get in as it is to get out.
How so?
There are very, very rigorous and demanding what they call épreuves, or tests, where you're required to go on stage and play a fiendishly difficult work in front of an international jury, and then they just pick one out of 200 people. And you have no assurance that you will ever get out with a prize. So I was delighted to get my first prize from the Paris Conservatory.
That's wonderful. What an accomplishment that is. Where did that take you? Did you stay in Paris? Did you stay in Europe at all? Did you come right back to the States?
Well, I noticed on the bulletin board at the conservatory that there was a job opening for principal flute of the Toulouse Symphony. And I said, well, I've never been to Toulouse. I might as well take the audition. I was in fine shape from my preparation for the rigorous exam at the conservatory. So I went to Toulouse, got the job, and spent a year there as principal flute.
How long did you live in Paris then altogether?
So it was 2 years in Paris and then 1 year in Toulouse.
In Toulouse. And did you travel around Europe playing, or were you just with the orchestra at that point?
Most of my traveling during the year with Toulouse, of course, was with the orchestra.
Yes. And after that, were you a soloist, or?
Then I came back to the States. It was during that time in Toulouse that I made my debut recital at Carnegie Recital Hall. It was in March of 1980.
Yeah, that was absolutely outstanding, because I have here the quotation from the New York Times, and they are known to be not too terribly generous with their reviews, but yours was outstanding in every way, and I hope this doesn't embarrass you, but I have to read this. This says, Linda Chesis's debut recital was outstanding in every way. Now, this is the New York Times. She is a marvelous artist whose sophisticated technical resources and lively, informed musicality vitalize everything she plays. Her performances were invariably stylishly shaped and scintillatingly projected. She is a superior recitalist. That must have made you feel so good.
It made me feel wonderful. In fact, I received the review while in Toulouse. I had to go back to perform with the orchestra the very next day after the recital.
Oh,
and of course, you have to wait a whole week for the reviews to come out in the Sunday Times. So I was really, it was quite an anxious time for me.
So I guess somebody in your family called you up and informed you?
Of course.
You must have felt really good about that. There are lots of other awards here. I'll just name a few because we don't have all that much time to list all of these awards. Musical America named Linda a young artist of 1982. Metropolitan Museum of Art Introduction Series in 1981. Affiliate Artist Appointment. I'd like to talk to you about the affiliate artists later on, too. First Prize Music Club Competition. First Prize Paris Conservatory, Claude Debussy Prize, Top Honors in Barcelona. It just goes on and on and on. It's wonderful. And as I said, you're so young to have achieved all of this. Did you start this at a very early age? I know a lot of our viewers are wondering, they have children that are taking music lessons now. Do they have to be very, very young when they start? Can they start when they're teenagers?
Well, in fact, just because of the physical nature of the flute, which is quite a long instrument, one can't begin too young because the instrument's just too large to handle. So people usually begin the flute, as I did, in elementary school. I was in 4th grade, and they passed around the sheets and said, who would like to rent an instrument? And I was most delighted to be able to get out of class for half an hour a week for my lessons.
And this is a public school.
Right. And it just stuck. It was something that came very, very easily to me.
You loved it right away.
I don't think I loved it right away. I think it was something that was very easy and very natural. Whereas I was a good student in school, but it was not as easy for me. I think I had to always really study and feel prepared for tests. Whereas with the flute, I never really had to practice at first. So in that way I was lucky. But then the practicing, of course, came later on.
Well, I know that our viewers are sitting there listening to you, and they do know that you are one of the most outstanding flutists, especially in New York City. So why don't we have you play a piece for us now, if you would like to?
I'd love to.
And then we'll come back and talk. What would you like to play for us?
I'd like to play a really beautiful piece called Syrinx by Claude Debussy. Now, this piece has a story behind it, and it's the story of the satyr Pan, who was half man and half goat, who lived in the forest in ancient Greece. And he was very much in love with the beautiful water nymph Syrinx. She, however, was repulsed by his physical being and would run from him when he tried to make his advances. She beckoned to her father, Ladon, the river god, to save her, and he transformed her into a reed. Now, Pan was very distraught, could no longer find his love in the forest, picked up this reed, fashioned from it a wooden flute, put it to his lips, and began to play this song, which is the very first song of the flute, called
Lovely
Syrinx.
story. I'd like to hear that. Linda, that was absolutely mesmerizing. You are truly a poet. A beautiful, beautiful piece. Thank you very much. I'd like to, if I may, just pick up on our conversation before you began playing about the young people out there who would be interested in a career in music. What suggestions do you have for them?
Music is not the easiest of professions, and I never thought I would hear myself saying that. It's something I've been told all of my life. There's a lot of joy to be had from music, to be doing something you really love as work. But it's very difficult because in an orchestra, which might have 25 or 30 violins, there will be 3 flutists. And people stay in these orchestras until they retire or pass on. So jobs are not really frequent. And it's only within the past 10 years that the flute has been really cultivated as a solo recital instrument. And that's along the lines that I'm tending to lead. What I really want to do, and what I have been doing, is doing recitals or going out and doing master classes and work through this program we mentioned called Affiliate Artist.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that.
I'm not digressing. I will get back to the discussion of young people in music. Through my work as an affiliate artist, which brings me to a community, perhaps a small town in the south, I'll be spending 5 weeks in northern Minnesota, I will see various segments of that community, and I'll play for them in a very informal way, talking and playing. And often I'm asked to perform for students, elementary school students, junior high, high school, and even nursery school children. And the advice I offer them is to really take the instrument and stay with it. Even if you don't think you're going to have a career or you want to do this for a livelihood, it's something that really is a valuable friend. And all of the hours one puts in alone in a practice room with the instrument pays off because it's a loyal friend.
Let me ask you now, affiliate artists takes you all over the country.
That's right.
Do you find that the audiences are different when you get outside of New York City?
Very different.
In what way?
Well, it varies from place to place. Actually, I do work for community concerts. And with these concerts, I spend one night in a different town, in each different town. And one tour will take me from Canada to Mexico. Some audiences are very enthusiastic as far as applause is concerned. They want encores, standing ovations. Other audiences are very reserved, almost afraid to perhaps express what they don't know, rather than just simply enjoying the music. But of course, I think perhaps I haven't done a wonderful concert, and then afterwards people come up and say, the best concert I've ever heard, but they just express it differently.
Now, how does that compare to the audiences that you had in Europe? How do the Europeans accept the artist, the musical artist?
Well, I think music, classical music especially, has had a place in Europe for much longer than it has in the United States, of course. And I think people are more at home with classical music. The local shopkeeper will know his operas backwards and forwards because it's something that one would have heard as a child in the house, on the radio or free operas. Music is very much for the people, not necessarily the elite.
I know they also have in many countries national treasures. Their musicians are very, very important people. And here, you can walk down the street and not be recognized, even when you are at the top.
That's right.
Very
Also, when you mention musician, people assume that you might be a rock musician or a pop musician.
Here in the United States.
Right, right. Whereas in Europe, they will most likely assume that you're a classical musician.
And they treat you, therefore, differently?
With great respect.
Do they?
Not that I'm treated without respect here, but I'm venerated in Europe. You know.
Oh, I see, I see. Then the field of music, when you are successful, can really take you all over the world. And this is something I think young people don't realize when they're practicing and they have the teacher coming to the house or they're going to a class in school. I think they're very limited. They usually say, well, maybe someday I'll play on the stage somewhere, maybe in New York, but I don't think they're aware that this can take them all over.
Also, it's a much more powerful means of communication than a pen pal even, because you can go any place in the world and sit down and play music with another person with whom you don't share a language. and really
establish beautiful relationships. Right. There's another aspect to this, though, that they don't seem to teach in school, and that is the business aspect of music. I know I have talked to some musician friends about this, and they say, where do you learn this? How do you get this experience? There are agents and managers, and you have to make phone calls and do mailings. How did you handle that when you came back from France?
It's very much a step-by-step, learn as you go along kind of process. I really had no idea of what was involved in this business of music because in conservatories, one is not taught that. It's not really even discussed. I was so focused on learning my repertoire, on perfecting my skills as a musician, that I thought it natural to assume that if I achieved a level of talent and expertise, I would just be accepted and have a career.
And everybody would be telephoning you, and you would be making a list of your dates.
Right.
It doesn't always work that way.
It doesn't ever work that way, or rarely. And when it does, I'm very surprised and delighted. But for the most part, I have to constantly try to make contacts, meet new people, let people know when I am performing, and through that, create a network.
And is it true that you can be very, very well known in Europe? This is a thought that we carry around here in the States. You can be very, very well known in Europe, and yet if you're not known in New York, that's really what matters. You have to be known here. I think they say, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Is this true? Can you be very well known in Europe and still have to do it all over again
yes, but I think it works
in New York City?
The reverse. I think you can be very, very well known in New York City and not make it in Europe these days. So I think, as far as the Europeans are concerned, they have an opposite kind of snobism.
Let me ask you one more question before I ask you to play a second piece. Okay. How does an artist know, a musician know, when he or she has real talent?
What a question. It's very hard. I mean, I think you just have a sense that you have something very special to give, and you seem to be, little by little, able to communicate that to other people. And I guess it's from the response of the listeners.
Now, you have had all along first-class reviews of your flawless playing. And you have achieved so many awards, always the highest levels. When did you realize and say to yourself, yes, I do have talent?
I think it's not so much a question of saying, yes, I do have talent. That was, I think, never a problem for me. It was, what are you going to do about it?
Where do I go now?
Right. What's the next step?
Does a musician know what the next step is going to be?
No, and it's a great mystery. And I think the problem with the musical profession is that it's a very unstable one, in that we have virtually no assurance of the kind of work we're going to be doing from year to year. I'm lucky because I know what my 1983-1984 season looks like. I know how many concerts I have and where. But after that, it's a mystery.
Well, that's also very exciting.
In a way.
And speaking of exciting, what is the second piece that you have chosen for us, Linda?
I'd like to play the first movement of the C.P.E. Bach unaccompanied sonata in A minor, the Allegro.
Beautiful. Fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
You're very sensitive and very expressive. Just watching your face and your eyes playing, that was just beautiful. I must say I have been to several of Linda's concerts, and when you see the name Linda Chesis playing somewhere, please, by all means, go and see her because she's absolutely extraordinary on the stage. And now if you have any questions or comments, either for Miss Chesis or for me, you may write to Speakeasy, and that is Post Office Box 2695, Rockefeller Center Station, New York, New York, 10185. And that address will roll across the screen at the end of the program in case you missed it. Linda, you've been playing for us here now. I wish we had time for more. But you also play chamber music. How do you find a music partner? How do you find an accompanist?
Often it happens by accident. One doesn't have a choice, or often one is invited to be a part of a team. I'll tell you about two of the groups I perform with regularly. One is called the Aurora Trio, and that's an unusual combination of flute, bassoon, and harp. And this flutist was, the original flutist in the group, decided to leave the group to join a woodwind quintet. It's like musical chairs. And the group was looking for a flutist, and I auditioned and agreed to fill that spot. And we've had quite a lot of success, and we do about 50 concerts a year throughout the country. I also work with a harpist called Sarah Cutler, who's also a very close friend. And we began working in a totally different way. We became friends first. We were together at Tanglewood in 1972, and we found each other again at Yale as undergraduates, and in fact we roomed together for a year, and we put on lovely little house concerts and invite our friends.
Oh, you do that now in New York?
That's right. So with Sarah, that was a friendship that blossomed into a partnership.
So you really have to complement each other in lots of ways.
Right, although you don't necessarily have to be friends in order to play music together. Musically you can have the same ideas, but socially or emotionally you can be totally different people.
Oh, I see. Then you and Sarah, this is called the
Chesis Cutler Duo.
Chesis Cutler Duo. Now you say that you play in homes. You bring chamber music into other people's homes, more of a personal touch to music. How do people get in touch with you?
Well, the best way, as far as people watching the show, would be to write their name and address to Speakeasy, the address shown, and if you'd like also to be on my mailing list, that would be a good way to be notified of my concerts.
Good. Then when they write to me, they can say that I do want to be on your mailing list, and I can forward that.
That's right, and I
forward that to you. By the way, that's a beautiful combination, the harp and the flute.
They really do complement each other very well. Although the flute works beautifully with piano and harpsichord, so in a way it's a very versatile instrument. And now that it's gained such great popularity, it's very common to go to hear a flute recital.
But I've also heard you in lots of other concerts where you have had pianists with you. How do you select them?
You just find the most supportive. Obviously, I would want a pianist with excellent technique and a beautiful sound, a wonderful pianist, but also one who is a supportive accompanist. But in a way, it's no longer that way. If anyone was reading the article in the New York Times about accompanists several Sundays ago, you refer to the accompanist as a pianist, and you're a partner in every respect. And that's the way I like to work with pianists.
Well,
so it's just a question of rapport. I have to feel at ease, and
you're a very busy person. Music has really kept you very, very busy and very happy, obviously. I want to thank you so much for having been with us today and for playing those two magnificent pieces.
I've been delighted to be here.
It's been a real pleasure for me, I must tell you that. For Speakeasy, this is Janis Lasser.